Welcome to the Angels, Magic and Joy podcast. This podcast is for those who seek answers from above, guidance and magical inspiration.
Immerse yourself in the realms of magic, angels, fairies, unicorns, dragons, and so much more. I'm Kirsty Jandrell, and I'm delighted to be here with you today.
And I am Kate Lachman.
Hello, welcome everybody to this brilliant episode of the Angels, Magic and Joy podcast. Our special guest today is Michelle ten Closter Boyce, Doctor of Chiropractor. She's a creator and founder of the Sensuality, Health and Empowerment Movement for Women. And she's the author of the newly released book. In fact, it was released just yesterday. It's amazing, and it's called Your Body, Your Power, Reconnecting to the Roots of Innate Wellness and Sacred Feminine Wisdom. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, both of you. I'm so excited.
You're so welcome. And for those of people in the audience who are maybe not familiar yet with yourself and your book, could you perhaps start by expanding a little? I know you do so much, but expanding a little on all the magical gifts that you're bringing into the world at this time, please.
Well, Your Body, Your Power was originally, it was written for my patients because I've been a doctor of chiropractic now for 20 years. And there was so much going on with my female clients and myself. And I learned that it wasn't just about pain in the body. Women were stressed, exhausted, but wired. And there was this complete disconnection to how they were feeling. There was a disconnection from the body. And for me, the pain was like an absence of pleasure. So when that happens, that's not just sexual pleasure, ladies. It's about how we, can own things like, how we feel, own our emotions. And what I was finding was that a lot of women were emotionally blocked and a lot disconnected. And there was this kind of like need in something. So, you get to the age of about 40, you've ticked all the boxes, you've maybe got your husband or got divorced, but you've got your kids, you've done all the things that you thought would make you happy. And you're sitting there thinking, I feel really guilty, but really shit because there's something missing and I don't know what it is. And I just can't put my finger on it. And it's this real kind of like disconnection from the self and disconnection from the soul. I really believe that women are craving something deeper. They're craving the feelings they get when they connect to their body because it really connects women to their spirituality. So I'm also a trained priestess. So I've kind of like been on my own journey. So I've kind of gone down the kind of medical route, very science-based. And that has really, really helped me in the fact that I have a very good foundation. I understand how the body works. I understand a lot about the physiology, the neurology. I understand what's going on. That's just part of the puzzle, because the missing part for me was, okay, what does my soul want? What is the sickness in my soul? What does my body want? What is sensuality? What is sexuality to me? And why am I disconnected of it? Why do I think it's for somebody else? And really bridging the kind of like spirituality and science together is really kind of like, I feel that is my magic, being able to have like one foot in each. I hope that answers your question.
I love that, Michelle. If I may ask also to add to it, because you mentioned, your female clients and that aspect, but do you feel like through that it's also a portal for both men and women, that we are kind of a portal for that, for the divine feminine to step through? Like it's not only women missing that, but also men, but we are kind of a vessel, a portal for that to come through so that everyone can access that.
Yeah, totally. So into what I'm finding, I've actually named something called the modern disease of the modern woman. And one of the biggest aspects of this is that men and women were very, very stuck in the masculine, a very, very linear way, doing, being. And we can't, if females in a female body, or if you identify as a female, if a female cannot completely be in her comfortable in her feminine essence, a man then can't be fully in his masculine, and we need the polar opposites. I'm also like a trained tantra teacher, and I teach this a lot because we have different polarities to men. And a lot of the time, women are working on the same polarities as men, and we need to do it the other way around. So we need to let men be men and women be women, and we need to work on our strengths and they need to work on their strengths. And it should be okay for men to be in their femininity too. But if women aren't allowing themselves to be in their femininity, we're having that kind of clash, because I think culturally, because of the patriarchal system that we live in, everything feminine is negative, too much. Let's just go, 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 be. That's very westernized. And I think there's so many deep layers to it. And when I work with women in relationship problems, or even how they are and they show up in work, in their family, a lot of it is because they're trying to live in a very linear way, in a masculine way. And it's like being on a boat and you're trying to paddle upstream. And when you kind of like really soften into the feminine way of being, living, cyclic living, we're able to get in the boat and the stream takes us. And that's our power. That is our true essence. And when we're totally fighting against that, that's when we get sick. That's when we get disease, or like I say, dis-ease, because we're not designed like that. And I think when women are truly able to own their femininity and own their power, then men are able to own theirs too. And there's this beautiful sacred union because we create the sacred third.
I absolutely love the words that you use to put it, because I can often get a sense or feelings of something, and you've put it perfectly. I might make some notes later on listening to that again. So thank you, Michelle. Okay, I won't deny, I can't wait to get into the book topic, okay? Because this thrills me, excites me, and I'm so congratulations and so happy, and another beautiful gem out there to guide us, to help us to understand, to feel. Michelle, how did your work as a chiropractor lead you to write this book, Your Body, Your Power? I love the title, okay? I can't be biased now, okay? You guys need to forgive me that a bit. It's such a magical blend of modern knowledge, and yet its foundation lies in ancient wisdom. And to quote you, Michelle, it's about inherent ways of ancient healing and the sacred ways of divine feminine wisdom, sexuality, feminine embodiment, emotional fluidity, female spirituality, physiology, functional medicine. Can you please tell us more, the journey that leads you there, and your work as a chiropractor as well, because I find it quite interesting, different worlds, yet combined together, and it's always that wisdom that comes through. So give us all the nuggets, please, about your, journey that brought you here.
Okay, I will try and keep it concise because it's a whole 10-year journey. But basically, I've got 4 children. And when I had my 3rd child back in 2012, I decided to work solely with women. I also work with babies and children, but my majority of my patients are women. That first initial thing was because physically for me, I just thought it's better with my body. I had enough women to work with, enough bigger practice. What started happening to me, I think I was 35 when I had Sebastian. And I was like my ideal client. I had lots of pains in my body. I had a lot of resentment. I just wasn't happy. And I was like chasing after all these kind of external goals. There was like a push. I was having lots of arguments at home. I was snappy. I had the worst PMS. Everything was just like the whole time. And I felt in battle with everyone else. But what it boiled down to, I was in battle with myself. And I started my spiritual journey because I just woke up one day and I thought, I just don't want to live like this anymore. I just don't want to be this mother. I don't want to be this person. I realized a lot of my childhood kind of stuff was coming up constantly. And I had done therapy, I'd done lots of things, but it just wasn't getting to the root cause of what was going on, because I was keep I kept on going over the same things. And what I really realized, my soul wanted recognition. My soul wanted to lead. My soul really, really knew what I wanted, but my ego self was just like, no, no, it has to be this way, because it was about how it looked on the outside in. What will they think? You know, it was all my, all my kind of childhood stuff. Yeah, I need to look this way. It has to look this way on the outside. But that stuff was killing me from the inside and making me sick. And I talk about it in the book. I've suffered with fibrocystic breast disease. I've had so many cysts on my cervix and everything. And I was really in denial of my feminine body. And that was because as a young girl, I was naturally, I like to dance, I like to move my body. And I was really in my feminine. But I was kind of taught through my parents, people around me, that it wasn't safe, or, oh, you're too much, all these different things. So I kind of like put all these walls around me, and I was blonde and I was quite attractive. Oh, no one's going to take you seriously, the dumb blonde stuff. So I was like, I'm going to be a doctor and I'm going to prove them all wrong. And I had this, but I put myself in this kind of box. And I used to call it the golden cage. I was like, I feel like I've got this beautiful life. Everything is perfect, but I'm in a golden cage and I don't want to be in here anymore. So it was a combination of all these things. And then I kind of found my spiritual path. I went the priestess lineage, and it opened up so many doors for me. And I've done tantric teacher training. I've done womb training, sexuality training. And I'm trained as a teacher in all of it, because I think when you can teach something, you can truly embody it. And then what I started to see is I started to become more aware of who I was and really tuned into my intuition, because basically in our lower chakras is where all our intuition lives as women. We should be living life from our womb space, our yoni, our heart, and our third eye. But we're not doing that because, as a little girl, you were like, you think things about people and you're right. Oh no, you're wrong. And we're kind of told to kind of cut that kind of magic off inside. And I was really lucky, not lucky because I worked at it, but to really kind of like realign myself back to those parts of myself, to awaken the magic within. And I say magic not even in a woo-woo sense, because we all have it, and it's our inner voice, it's our connection to God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, universal intelligence. And that's really what we're all deeply craving. And I saw that in my clients. They were having these pains. They were really down, they were feeling burnt out, they were tired, all the kind of things that women kind of have when they get to a certain age. And normally go to your GP and you get given like an antidepressive, or you go on the pill, or you get told that there's something wrong with you, but it's normal, we have a pill for it. But all these cluster symptoms were, I feel that it was a yearning and a deep crying out of these women's souls that they needed something more. They needed to connect to their bodies, because we find universal intelligence, God, our divine human, through our bodies. And they were all like doing mindfulness, yoga, meditation. And that's great for men. But because we have different polarities in the chakras, women really need to get in the body to get to something bigger than ourselves. We can't just sit there and go, yeah, our minds are like our shopping list. We've got loads of to-dos, all these different things, right? It's just this constant battle. And when you teach women to come into their bodies, connect with their bodies, their Shakti, their life force, that fire within, which has usually been damped out and it hasn't been there for a long time, and you help them ignite that, and you help them become emotionally fluid. So life force begins to flow. They wake up, and all the things that they were suffering, they just go away, because ultimately, most of it is a disconnection from soul. I hope I answered the question. I think I went on a bit of a...
I love that you weave that. One of the main message, and it's amazing because it's always, the timing, and obviously you're gonna say things that they connect within myself and like the reality that's happening around. And I found it recently, being focused so much, on our traumas, on our stories. And the main thing that often came through recently, there will be a lot of suffer when people wouldn't allow, for whatever reason, whatever stories weave through, and whatever they need to do or experience in order to get there, when the soul wouldn't have the access to express itself.
Yeah.
And very often I feel it's missed, and lots of, you know, like you mentioned, you know, you go to GP, you just get a tablet for that and you'll be grand, right? And
Yeah.
and I feel it's very often missed because we will focus, you know, either on trauma or releasing, of course, which is a big part of getting there. However, I found it, and I had that conversation with my friend, and she would experience whatever she experiences, and the main thing, that message that was coming through, your soul wants to be seen, you know, your soul wants to sing through you and is looking for that access. So often we might almost get crazy or get pain or all of those things. So I really love that you mentioned that. Like, that's the main message I get from that. Of course, there were loads of other ones weaving through. So thank you for that, Michelle. I feel like that message, it's like really important right now, and in times right now as well. And I suppose it's the focus, and hope, and the way to live, to maybe not to survive, that's quite dramatic, but the way to navigate in times now, with whatever is happening in the world, with whatever is happening within us, you know, to allow the soul to speak with whatever talents or gifts we have. And that's the kind of a solution to it. Would you agree?
I agree totally. And just like going back on what you said, you know, the body will always speak to us. The body has a voice. And because a lot of us are wired to our negative stuff, it always ends up being pain and depression, whatever it is. It's our soul going, hello, I'm here. I need some attention. I have a message for you. Are you going to take the time to listen to me? And that's why it's usually when we have like a life crisis that we wake up, or we have an awakening, because we don't tend to stop unless we're stopped. And I really believe that is the connection to goddess, mother, God, whatever you want to call it, that when we don't listen, they will make us stop, because we were born to do something. And usually we're always on the wrong path because we were scared, we have fear, and something comes along and wipes us out. And we're like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? But it always happens for us to help us get back on the right path so we can fulfill whatever we're here to do. And I really believe that is the essence of my work, is to help women to wake up and remember who they really are, you know? And it feels like it's like an onion, and there's many layers. And when people first come in, it's pain. Then it's a little bit of like how they're eating, because, you know, that affects us spiritually. And you can't, like, I know a lot of women in the priestess world and spiritual world, and they're like really connected to their higher chakras, but they're completely disconnected from this beautiful vessel that we're in. But this vessel is how we experience life. This vessel is so, so important to how we embody the goddess, how we embody God, how we show up in the world. So we need to take care of that. It's not, a lot of people want to bypass that, but it's about bringing all of it together and like fusing it together and peeling back the layers. Because to go really high into the higher chakras and get to the soul and different consciousnesses we all really crave for, we need to have a beautiful grounded body, a happy, safe, healthy, grounded body that can hold everything that we need, that we want to experience in this life.
I will let you, Christina. Okay, I have to ask. Sorry, I'm just, because I'm like, yes, I want to know more. Because you've mentioned, I feel it's really important as well, because I can resonate. So, like, living from my heart up most of my life, not allowing. Would you give some tips for someone who's listening? So first of all, the awareness of that is massive, just to actually realize I'm not living in my lower chakras. That's a big one, right? Would you give us maybe, you know, a few insights, kind of how to get there? Obviously each path is different, but from your perspective, how can we get there? To, you know, something maybe that will come through, you know, as a message. How can we, you know, embody that and actually dive into that source within us?
So the way that I work with that, first of all, with women, is to really just wake up the Shakti, because the energy, so, you know, the energy Shakti is in the lower chakras, and then it rises up. And the way to do that is through some certain exercises, which I talk about in the book. I do a lot of things with the yoni egg and different things to awaken the sexual energy. But the biggest thing is, and this puts a lot of women off, oh my God, it's about sex and it's about yonis and different things. But it's not about sex. It's about your power. It's about your your energy body, and it does live between your legs. There's no getting around it, it really does. And women have to remember that everything that we want to create, everything that we want to bring into this world, it starts in our womb. And whether that's a baby or whether that's an idea or a creation, it really starts within there. So it's all about waking up the womb's wisdom, waking up the voice of intuition. Because to truly connect, it has to be in the heart has to receive the information from the mind and the womb, and then the heart can expand. And then at the end of the day, if we really want to go down the path, it's all about love at the end of the day. But I think for us women, it really has to come from womb wisdom, and also from these higher dimensions. And in the book, I talk a lot about Shakti awakening exercises, the way to breathe into the womb. I mean, some women just even bringing their breath lower into the body is awakening enough. Even just sitting in your chair, uncrossing your legs, because how many of us were taught, it's a very patriarchal thing, sit with your leg crossed, you have to be a good girl, ladies do that. But it's a way that we were taught to suppress our sexuality, to suppress our energy, cross your legs, all those kind of things. And we're taking them on, oh, it's ladylike. It's like your nan probably told you, my nan did, But when you even just sitting in the chair with your legs slightly apart and just doing some circles like around in your hips and breathe, the breath is so important. So it's about breathing in. And when you're breathing out, just and just really letting the hips relax, and even like some figure eights, but really exaggerating the movement, and maybe you do some shoulder rolls with it, but you just awakening, just sitting like that when you're at your desk sometimes. Because you'll realize sometimes when we're sitting at our desks and we're busy or in work, we're clenched, our jaws are tight, our yoni's tight, our hips are tight, maybe our hands are tight too. We're kind of in this flex position. And that really makes us quite stressed, because that sends chemical messages to our brain that there's a tiger coming, because that's how we're kind of like wired. And that really disconnects us from the feminine, because the feminine actually, if you were to like lean back in your chair right now, the feminine lives in the back of the body, the back of the heart. And when we can breathe in and just soften into the back of the body and just allow and surrender, there is so much space and so much possibility for everything that we want, whether that's healing, whether that's connection. But we're always living in the front, we're always like in the masculine. The masculine lives in the front of the body and the feminine lives in the back. And it's about, these are just like some basic things. The book obviously goes into a lot more. But I always tell people to start with some really just basic breathing into the yoni, breathing into the womb, hip circles, butterfly legs, really basic stuff before you start thinking, I'm going to go and do loads of sexuality practices, because sacred sexuality, which I teach, is amazing, but it brings up a lot. So you have to have a good foundation first.
Wow, I think there's so much in there. I don't know where to go next. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Kate. It's like there's so many core essential what I'm picking up from you, and having sort of looked at the book and read some of it, quite a bit of it actually already. I'm very privileged that you allowed me to do that. And there's just such fundamental sacred wisdom in there that you've drawn out, and you've, as you say, you've married it with the science, which is great, because you've got all those many years of experience and scientific knowledge, the experiential knowledge, but then also this beautiful sacred wisdom that you're bringing through as well. And so much of what you were saying, I think Kate and I are sort of DNA's lit up at the moment, because we're both sort of resonating so highly. And as you were talking, for me, I mean, I as you know, I teach Kundalini yoga, which is about that awakening of that creative force, and it's absolutely not linked to sexuality in this context. But as you say, it's our source of all creation.
Yeah.
And this is what the divine feminine energy is. And that connection between the womb, the heart, as you say, which the frequency of love, which is the opposite to fear, which we've all been brought into and born into. So it's that love. And then the third eye, our powers of manifestation, and when all of those three are aligned, then the possibilities for us as individuals and humanity are truly endless, aren't they? And this is where I think your book is so timely, because I feel as though we're on this sort of this precipice of creating this new earth, and this is what such a fundamental part of it. So it's so exciting. It's so exciting. I think every woman should own this book. So thank you so much. It's just it's that connection, as you say, and that connection between so much, and the mind body spirit connection in absolute essence, so you've touched on it earlier, Michelle. When I first started to read the book, I was smacked in the face by the recognition of myself in what you were talking about, and I think Kate straight away as well had that. You talk about this really succinctly at the start of the book, and it was an instantly recognizable description of the root issue, and you touched upon it. You call it the modern disease of the modern woman, which I think is just perfect. It's such a perfect way of describing it. I'm just wondering how you understand that has almost become a pandemic in today's society. We've been living in this patriarchal construct for sort of 2,000, 3,000 years. We're moving slowly, well, actually, more quickly with every day out of this. I just wondered how endemic you think this is within women. Do you think that most women carry this in Western society, or do you think it's, how far-reaching is it, do you think?
Well, I feel like I can't talk about, like, I can talk about Western society because I understand it, and I haven't lived from another society's point of view. But from Western society, I believe that it is a huge epidemic. I think our generation has it in a certain way. I think the younger generation are going to have it, but maybe a little bit worse because they have social media differently growing up. I think they're going to have it on a different level. But I also think that it's because it's all, I feel like I have a chapter called The Patriarchy and what that has kind of done to us. And I don't mean that against men, because I feel that they've done the patriarchy has done a number on men too. It is not about making men wrong. It's about controlling. It's about controlling us. So, for example, from a very young age, as women, again, speaking from my point of view, because I know we all have like different experiences, but you show magazines, today it's social media, and you're taught, okay, this is what's beautiful, this is what you have, if you look like this, if you get this, if you have this friends, if you end up successful in this amount of money, if you buy this house, if you have X amount of holidays a year, stereotypical stuff. And it's almost like people want it, that they're kind of like breadcrumbs along the way, like, yeah, I've got that one. It's like a Mario game, right? Oh yeah, I've got my next one, right? Bing bing. And then you get to the end and you're like, okay, well, where's the prize? And what the biggest thing for me was, and it really upset me, because I realized I had been distracted most of my life chasing things outside of myself that I needed or thought I needed to feel loved, complete, worthy. And I had completely ignored who I was and what I really wanted to do and who I really was, because that didn't matter, my fears and my insecurities, because I believe of, the system that we're in, were far greater and had a greater voice than my soul voice. I was like, shut up, we haven't got time for this. I'm going for that. I have to do this. I have to be this. You know what I mean? And it creates such stress in the body, and it creates so much stress in our life, because if you think about it, we're always, it's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. We get to the end of the rainbow, it's like, where's the pot? Oh, there's another rainbow. And it's like you're just going over and over. And for me, I was just so stressed. And I remember I get up drinking my coffees in the morning, okay, ready to go. And then I would just be having sugar cravings, and and I would be all over the place. I'd be snappy. I'd be like counting the times. It was 6 o'clock and I could have a glass of wine just to calm down, chill out a little bit, have a little bit of respite. And then feeling shit the next morning because I had the wine, and then guilty, and my PMS was all over the place, my eating habits, and then that affected everything else. You know what I mean? My sleep was affected, and I was just in this complete puddle of crap that I had created myself because I was lost, trying to be something I wasn't. And how I really started changing it was also really started to go into, when I found the kind of like the feminine movement, was really kind of coming back into the feminine cycles of life, you know, coming into that kind of 28-day cycle. Because most women in this kind of pandemic, you know, in our 28-day menstrual cycle, and you can also think of the moon, you know, we have different stages. You know, we have the winter, which is when we bleed, then we go into spring, and then we have summer, which is ovulation, when we just want to have sex with everybody. No, just joking. And then we kind of go into that kind of like harvest stage, like an autumn stage. But I think people with the modern disease, women with the modern disease of the modern woman, there is this pressure, and most of it is coming from within, that we need to be in summer all the freaking time. And if we're not in summer, then there's something wrong, and we feel that we are going to lose it in some way. And what I mean by that is what I saw in myself and what I see in the women that I work with is, when I begin to work with them, is there is a self-worth problem. So if we feel we are doing and we are being everything to everybody, then we are worthy, then we feel enough. And when we're not, it's like we have to prove ourselves, this worthiness. And when we just like sit back or relax and we listen and follow our bodies, then there's this fear that, oh, I'm not needed, or I'm not good enough, or who am I if I don't do these things? Who am I if I don't perform or do that for that person? And it creates so much kind of tension in our lives, in our bodies. And that's where we see the modern disease in modern women, when women are stressed out, burnt out, tired, exhausted, but wired, thyroid problems, all kinds of stuff.
I love that you bring the idea, you know, the wheel of the year, the divine feminine through it. And when you go through the wheel of the year, you know, you have the north, south, you know, and then all the festivals. The tendency to stay within Biertana, you know, the summertime. I love that you bring that. And then the center of the wheel is the spirit. And and then diving into that, really what caught my attention, Chiology, Michelle, like the words that you, the creation of it, absolutely love it. So so you speak in a book about, you know, the solution to this modern disease is called Chiology. Absolutely love it. Okay, I might stop here for a moment. I might repeat it a few times because I love how it sounds. I absolutely love it, which is fantastic. I absolutely love the name of it. Can you describe this approach to women's health, Michelle? Like, what is Chiology, like your approach, and what is it all about?
So Chiology is what I kind of named, it's like a biology for women. So I mean, this is a very touchy subject with the transgender community, but if we think just about, this is not a guy, this is, if we just think about a female, a body that is born female with all the hormones in place and everything in place, so then you cannot deny that that is different from a male's biology. And I just want to just kind of just like drop this little nugget in. So up until the 1990s, mid 1990s, no scientific experiments were done on women. So what I mean by that is, you know, when they have like these trials and they, for a blood pressure medication, and they take you in and they do the trials to see if it's safe. Yeah. Well, everything up until the middle of the 1990s was done on men. So women were getting medications that were designed for men, but heart disease is one of the leading causes of women, but we weren't being given the right medication up until 1990s. Even how we present with heart attacks is completely different to men. Men have like the classic left arm, you know, and we have it in a very, very different way. It can be felt as a little bit of backache. It can be felt as a tight neck. And the reason I'm saying that is because my approach with Chiology is helping women understand their unique, beautiful physiology, biology, and neurology that is different to a man. The fact that we have a cycle every 28 days, a man has a cycle every 24 hours, you know, our hormones, everything, it affects all our how we produce cortisol, it's on a play for progesterone, that there's all kinds of different things that you need to take into consideration when it's a woman. So whenever I look at a woman, or I'm working with a patient or a client, I like to think of it as like an onion, and I have to peel back the layers. So first of all, there's the direct problem, and then we're just peeling back, and we have to look at the physiology. We have to look at the neurology, and the neurology is, how are you dealing with stress? What's your adrenal cortex reactions like? How can we kind of manage that? How can we bring the cycles into that to kind of balance you? How can food help? How can certain habits help around that? How can beautiful diaphragmatic breathing help with those things? And then kind of like really taking it into the sacred. How can we bring ritual? How can we build this beautiful connection to your soul and spirit, or whatever you believe in that is greater than yourself? How can we bring in she movement? Because she movement is something I created for women, which brings the woman right into the body, which helps connect her to her body, mind, and soul, and releases all the stuff that we're carrying all the time. And this kind of like emotional fluidity, which I feel is so needed for women. It's so vital for women, because we really need to move, sound, and feel our emotions, and not just let them live in our head, because we are just all this build up and then we explode. And then all the sexuality practices, understanding how the patriarchy, understanding how certain kind of phytonutrients and chemicals and good chemicals, like food and supplements, how all this is about, how everything in Shiology can support you as a divine human, basically. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about your soul, it is about the body. It's not just about your body, it's about the soul. It's a blend of the two. And when the two are in balance, we are well. Because at the end of the day, the body is always looking for balance. We call it homeostasis. It's always looking for balance. And so are we. So is nature. Nature's always looking for balance, and we are nature. And I think sometimes we forgot that we are part of that cycle, and we have to weave ourselves back into that cycle. And Shiology is all about the different elements of who we are, supporting the fifth, as we say in the North, Southeast, the fifth element, but our soul ultimately, and our body, because our body is also sacred.
So beautiful, thank you. It's I mean, you're so knowledgeable, with the scientific side and the your practice as a chiropractor, and yet there's also this backup from the spiritual side. And I just wanted to sort of talk about that in a little bit more depth, if we may, Michelle. And yeah, just also wanted to celebrate the word Shiology because it's beautiful. I'm inspired. But we first met doing some priestess training that we're both on, and specifically we were working with the sacred oils, the holy oils, and using those on the body, and working as scent priestesses in that way, and using that as a sort of a blessing of spirit through the oils on the body, and part of the work is to bring that unity, to bring that connection, isn't it, between the spirit and the physical vessel, and allow that emotions to be released, allow ourselves to step into our manifestation. And it's a very, very old practice, this art of anointing. We know that it's at least 7,000 years old, and as part of this spirituality that's coming through now and being reclaimed by more and more women and men, we are tentatively stepping out and becoming more visible as quote unquote spiritual women or spiritual men, and something that quite honestly we would have possibly been how do we put this? We would have been punished for those practices many hundreds of years ago. We would have been drowned or burned or whatever, and it was really that touching into that connection with nature that was dipping into that power. So just thinking about that now, can you talk more, Michelle, into the importance of this reclamation of this spirituality and what it holds in general for us as women, for society, also for women and men, and then also perhaps more specifically about women's health and the importance of that, and how you view that, really, Michelle, because I know there's a lot that you hold there.
So the way I have looked at it, and the way that maybe my viewpoint is, I feel like women's bodies, the nature of our periods, our births, our everything, even our hormones, everything has become very medicalized. And I believe that, again, it's patriarchal. Years ago, it was the church. Now it's like, I mean, I love science, but there is, pharmaceutical companies which are living off our insecurities and different things. And I believe that what is happening with women is that there is nature, or a realization of a reclaiming of our power, and that is our being able to understand our own bodies, to be able to understand our own body's language, to understand how our own body works, taking back the power rather than asking somebody else what they think. Because ultimately, we need to understand ourselves as a whole, and the only person who can ever do that is yourself. So even though I help women and I assist them, I am not going to cure them. They are going to cure themselves, because you are a whole system. And what one symptom is, I always say that is just a tiny thread. It's like a web, okay? And when you start pulling on the web, you can take it. It's like, what was that labyrinth back in the day when I was listening to storytellers? So it was like, you follow it back to the way home. That thread is a way back home to you. And I believe that this whole thing with the awakening of the feminine is taking back our bodies, taking back our power. And when we can reclaim that, we can step out into the world and we can help change and help humanity. But for most women, like me, how I was in a golden cage, and I couldn't get I had the key. No one had the key. I had the key. I could turn the lock at any time. I just didn't feel confident. I had all these issues. I had all these problems, and I couldn't do it. But inside the cage, I can't make a difference in the outside world, in humanity, in higher consciousness, in changing the planet. So I believe that whenever we go, when I think about the awakening of the divine femininity and higher consciousness, it is always the hero's journey first. It is always about slaying your own dragons, or not even slaying them, taming them, because let's be honest, they're never completely slayed, but it's about taming them and becoming a master of yourself before you can become and help other people. Because you really have to know yourself. You really have to understand your own shadows, your own triggers. Otherwise, we end up just projecting them onto somebody else. And I believe that's what's wrong with everyone right now. We're all can't see our own shadow. We're projecting it onto everyone else. And when we can own our divine feminine and we can look at ourselves, we're able to help heal this planet.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Absolutely love that. And you mentioned, following the rainbow to find the pot of gold. But yeah, we are pot of gold. We are the prize. That's the main thing I'm taking from this podcast today. I'm like, not chasing and just realizing I am the prize.
I mean, I was picking myself because years ago, I think I was like, oh my goodness, like 20. And I read The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. Yeah. And I didn't quite get it, but I read it again like a few years ago. I was like, of course, it was about me the whole time. It's about finding yourself. I just wasn't ready to hear it then. You know what I mean? But ultimately, the hero's journey is always about finding ourselves. So then we become our own heroine. And I believe that really is my hope for every woman. And that is what I want to do. That is my contribution.
And coming back to that journey, Michelle, of finding yourself throughout, and I wish actually we would have like few hours so I can explore all of it, because that path that led you where you are now is really fascinating. Would you share, okay, little nuggets from, I'm sure, loads of stories, loads of experiences, lots of, you know, those breakthrough moments, because of course you mentioned already one main one, but I suppose there were elements to it. Could you please, this is our favorite question, and I've noticed myself asking beyond the podcast, this is my absolute favorite. Michelle, your most magical or maybe joyful or maybe angelic experience or experiences that play that transformative role in your journey so far, something, you know, maybe will come to your mind, like an event that happened or an experience that maybe you would like to share with us. You know, it's always fascinating. I love those ones. Maybe I will do one day a compilation of all of those experiences, and just we can watch it and listen to it for hours. So would you share Michelle, one or more, maybe more of those experiences?
The one that springs to mind is back in 2000, I can't remember when it was now. I went to France for a Mary Magdalene tour. And up until that point, I knew I was going to write this book. And I was still I was going to write it more from the medical point of view. I was going to do more the stress, just the main kind of topics. And I wasn't going to go into the spiritual side. I wasn't going to go into maybe the sacred sexuality stuff. And a lot of that was because I was scared, because in my kind of community as a doctor, you know, I have a good name for myself, you know, people take me seriously. And there was this whole fear of, you know, woohoo-ness. And when I was I was actually in the cave of Mary Magdalene, and I was with another sister, the two sisters actually, and I was there, and it was a beautiful experience. If you've ever been, it was, you know, just to be in that surrounding where she was. And I had this another lady came up to me and told me that I was supposed to go to another cave. And I was like, hang on a minute, I've come to France. I'm in the Mary Magdalene cave. This is where I'm supposed to be. Duh, you know? And she said, no, I've had a message. You really need to come with me, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, well, I'm here anyway. And we went on, and I'm not joking, it was like a 2-hour trek. And it was like around the mountain. If you've ever been to St. Barm, it is quite it's a huge mountain, so it's already hard to get at. And we were kind of like walking around it like on this like cliff thing, and I had these like Birkenstocks on. You know, I can walk quite long on my Birkenstocks, but it was like on the edge. And she took me, and we got to this kind of like place, and I turned around, and all I could see was like this cave. I couldn't even say it was a cave. It just looked like an opening that just looked like a vulva. And I was like, okay. And I instantly felt like I'm meant to be here. I knew I was meant to be here. And she opened a bag, and she got this thing out for me to put on. I was like, what is it? She was a headlamp. So I was like, okay, I had a headlamp on. And then she's getting a rope out of a bag, and she's tying it to the tree. And then she's dropped this thing into, because I had to climb into the cave. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have 4 kids and a husband back home. What am I doing? This is like, you know, most irresponsible thing. I tell my kids, my oldest daughter's 22, don't ever go off with strangers, don't do anything stupid. And here I was about to climb into this cave. So I went into the cave, and I just had this very, very kind of out of body experience. And it was made very, very clear to me. Well, let's just talk about the cave. The cave is called the Cave of Eggs. And inside it is like a womb, but there's like the walls are like wet, just like inside a womb space. And it's like it's just eggs everywhere. There's like these beautiful kind of like, it's like full of like eggs, hence called the Cave of Eggs. And there was a beautiful altar in there where people have come over the years to, ask things from the goddess. But I knew in my body instantly, the book has to be about this too. The book has to be about all the sacred sexuality practices, all the tantra. It has to be about goddess, God, I have to embrace this side of me. And I came out of the cave as you come out the light, and I just looked back at this like labia, this like vulva staring at me, and I just knew, okay, I have my message. This is it. And then I went home and I wrote the book. And it was really transformative.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just a complete whole body knowing.
Oh, Michelle.
That was beautiful. That was
I
my,
want to go there.
and I've had beautiful experience in Glastonbury and stuff as well, and I've been in different places, but this to me was my kind of like my most magical kind of, okay, this is what I'm here to do.
So beautiful.
I can feel it as you speak. I feel
Yes.
it's hard to describe it in your words, but I feel it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm going there. I'm going. I'm booking the flight. I'm going there.
Oh,
Wear walking boots. That's all I can say. I wish I had my walking boots on.
and what a beautiful, you know, that what came across was that you weren't particularly looking for that sign, but it just came to you.
I didn't know it existed. I didn't know it existed.
Colour or body awareness. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. That's truly, truly magical. I'm so glad that you went there, because now the book has been birthed. So
Oh, it's
good.
yeah, I should put that in my cave of eggs.
Paper bags. I love it. Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. It's been an absolute joy, and so you know, you've just got so much beautiful wisdom to share with everyone. So thank you for sharing just, you know, tiny bits, really, the tip of the iceberg with us and everyone today. So blessed to have you on. Thank you. And what are the best ways for people to contact you, Michelle? I mean, we'll put the contacts in the show notes, and how can we get hold of the book? How can people get hold of the book?
I will, there's going to be I can send you a QR code so that you can send out if you want, or there's going to be one of my social media in the, like, today, and my, Instagram, Dr. Michelle Boyce. So you'll find it on there. And yeah, I hope everyone, I think every woman should read this book. It's going to help. My hope is that it really helps to heal the world in some way.
I'm gonna advocate for that. I've got my Christmas present sorted. Thank you so much, Michelle. It was an absolute pleasure. And again, I wish we could have maybe 10 more hours to discover you more and more and more. And maybe you wish to come back again, maybe with another book that's going to come out again. So we're going to have a good opportunity to chat again. And thank you so much for today, for your wisdom and your sharing and your energy and your beauty. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, loves, and wishing you all the best of luck with the book, and yeah, definitely I would love you to come back. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
everyone. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you soon.